Hey, it's your host, Mark Santiago, and I'm excited to introduce you to the next level of this podcast, Empowered AF 2.0. In this next stage of Empowered AF, we're going to dive deeper into what it means to be an empowered man in his most advanced form. I'm talking healthy communication, healthy lifestyle, both physically and emotionally, and evolving into the man you've always wanted to be. So stick around and join me in this episode of Empowered AF 2.0. All right, welcome to Empowered AF. We are live in our Facebook group. Today's client journey, I've got with me Josh Marlowe. Welcome, Josh. Thanks for joining us for the show. Thanks for joining us for our live.
Thanks for having me.
So, Josh, you're not one of these guys that typically does this type of thing, so this is probably going to feel a little nerve-wracking, huh? How nervous are you right now?
Actually, when I first got the invitation, I was really nervous. This is totally out of the norm, out of my comfort zone. But I've transitioned over to, finding my voice and wanting to share my story to help other men.
Awesome. And that's the key thing, right? Is because really our egos are the ones that keep us trapped in this small little bubble, right? Because we're afraid to allow ourselves to be exposed and be hurt because of, sharing our struggles or sharing the things we've been through. So I appreciate you jumping on and sharing the next 15, 20 minutes with us and really just kind of diving a little bit into your story and kind of where you are now specifically, because I think sometimes it's so easy to talk about the past and it's like, man, but what about now? Where's this guy now? And and you and I, as well as 20 something other guys, just had an incredible weekend in Nashville. So hopefully we'll get to talk about a little bit of that too. I'll try to keep the stories about you to a minimum on that, because there were some things that I heard, phone calls made in the middle of the night. But we'll keep that inside the community. If you're not sure about that, you got to join Thrive and Thrive Plus to be privy to that kind of information. But anyways, so man, tell me, what was life like before you came to Empowered Man? You were going through separation, what was going on?
Yeah. Before I came, I got comfortable in my marriage. I took my wife for granted. It was almost like a sense of ownership towards her, and it was not a great marriage, looking back, but at the time I thought everything was fine.
Yeah. And
then she hit me with wanting a divorce, and it just caught me off guard. I was like, what happened? Where did things go wrong? So I started looking into therapy and counseling and trying to help me cope, and everything was surface level. And then I was scrolling through Facebook one day, having one of those woe is me days, and your ad popped up, and I was like, well, I haven't gave this a shot. And I was looking for something to figure out what was wrong with me. Looking back through all my past relationships, they all failed. And I wanted to know why.
So you saw that you were the common denominator in all those relationships.
I did. Yeah. I've been cheated on, been in toxic relationships, and I wanted to know why.
So as you started to do the work with us, did you start to discover some of that, what was happening?
I did. It really come to light when we started getting into the ownership assignments. And there were days that I went a week and a half without doing the assignments, just because I didn't want to accept the fact that there was something wrong with me.
Wow. So basically it's like, again, like that ego pride got in the way of your growth. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
exactly.
sure listening right now, there's probably hundreds of guys that are feeling that exact same thing. I mean, we'll pause it right there and go, what would you say to a guy who's basically like too prideful, too arrogant to accept that there are things that you've got to work on? What would you say to him?
I would ask him if he could look himself in the mirror,
Hmm.
because for many years I didn't like the guy looking back at me.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't face it. I was on antidepressants. I drank a lot, and now I can happily say that I am off antidepressants. I've been off for months, and I'm just a social drinker when we go out and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So we see this so many times. I mean, like, especially like your story, and I don't know your full story, but just like meeting you in person, like you kind of strike me as like typical middle America guy. Like you do okay. It's not like you're a fucking totally rich man. You do okay in the world. You provide for your family. You're a hard worker. This whole like emotional shit was probably like never your game. It's not like you've been a feminine dude, right? You're not like sitting around crying with people. I mean, like, how much of a game changer was that for you to like accept that? Because that must have been weird. Like, I don't know, like how, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a household where if you got hurt or something went wrong, you were told to man up and rub dirt on it. I wasn't allowed to show my feelings or emotions growing up.
Yeah.
And now that I've learned a different way, it's it's freeing. I don't
Mm,
have to keep things bottled up. I can get it out, and it's made me truly happy. I can be that young boy again,
mm.
and that's where I talk about uh, my, living my authentic self. I can be who God made me to be.
Let's talk about that. I mean, so I saw that comment in our school platform where you were talking about your authentic self. And it sounds like for you, and I think every man out there, like all of us don't feel like we can live our authentic self. Like, why for you? Like, why do you feel like you couldn't? Was it just because of your dad, or what? Like, why do you think you weren't able to be that person?
It was a lot of that in society.
Mm,
Um, they put so much pressure on men to live in such a high standard. We're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to provide for the family. We're supposed to do all these things, and it gets to be a lot of weight.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So for you, you started going through this process, and you were recognizing that, hey, I'm part of the problem here, and I need to own my shit. What were some things that you had to own?
The big one was the way I showed up. Um, not being not being able to feel like I was good enough.
Mm,
Um, and that was a lot of this, a lot of the things in all my relationships. Um, I never I never had that self confidence that I felt like my partner deserved me as their partner, and that was, I went through high school. I was a jock. I played football, and I dated good looking women, but it was my social surroundings, getting picked on and bullied, even though I was a jock. It lowered my self-esteem and confidence and made me question, like, why are these girls dating me?
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, it's funny what we see on the outside of a man, right? Like we judge the outside so much. We see the guy get out of his nice car. We see the muscular guy at the gym. We see the good looking dude with all the girls around him. And we think, wow, that guy has it made. That guy, he's got it all. He's got this, this, and this. And it's like, but deep down, every fucking man is hurt. Every man has pain. And whether he's dealt with it or not, we don't know. But a lot of times those external things are the way we deal with that pain. We become a jock to deal with being bullied. We become successful business people to deal with that father wound. We become a womanizer because of the father wound, or maybe we were abused or sexually assaulted at an early age. And so we use that as to counteract all those things. So you went through Thrive and now you're in Thrive Plus. When did you come to us? Was it last year, this year? I can't remember.
Last year, October 19th.
Yeah. So you've been working with us for going on a year now.
Yep.
In Thrive Plus and such. What's been some of your big takeaways from like even just past the initial sort of 90 days, like the owning your shit and the communication leadership? Like what other takeaways have you really gotten from just the experience? It doesn't have to be even necessarily learnings, but just like the experience for you. What's it been like?
I can remember the day that I joined because it's a day that changed my life. It's a day that I started improving myself. A day that I could get back to my authentic self and live a lifestyle of ownership. Am I perfect? No. But if something goes wrong, I'm not afraid to own my faults, my mistakes. And it's gave me a lot of inspiration to keep improving on myself. It's almost like a drug now. I strive to wake up and be 1% better every single day now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm guessing before that you weren't.
No, I didn't give a shit what people thought. I was an ass. And now I can still have the mindset of I don't care what people think of me because I know how I feel about me now.
And how do you feel about you?
Amazing. I've never been this happy in years, being able to live the way God designed me to live.
That's awesome. What was maybe one or two big takeaways from this weekend? If you guys don't know, those of you that are listening, we do quarterly events for Thrive and Thrive Plus where we get together in different places. We did one in Phoenix earlier this year. We did one in Nashville this past weekend. I'm going to announce coming up where we're going in January. I think all of you are going to fucking love it. Might be kind of far for you, but
everything's far for me.
I know because you're in Alaska, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we were in Nashville this past weekend. We had a lot of fun. It was a lot of like, it's what I want out of an event, right? It was hard shit. It was tears. It was laughter. There was fun stuff. What were some just like 1, 2, or 3 takeaways that you had from this weekend and what it was like experiencing Empowered Man, like in, all together, right? Like our 20 something clients got together to do this.
First off, just being able to see the people firsthand and meet them and realize that I wasn't the only one going through this shit.
Yeah.
The brotherhood was so amazing. It gave me some insight on things that I thought I had healed, but gave me some direction on a path to deeper healing in them areas. Um, just like the topic for the weekend, the father wound. Um, I knew there was some trauma coming up there, and it gave me ways to help further that healing. And like our breath work, that was the first time that I actually got involved with breath work. Um, we had Jen uh, on one of the calls, and I couldn't I couldn't find that disconnect to really dive into it. So being there in person and experiencing it was amazing, for lack of words. It blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's phenomenal, right? Because like you're finally getting to see these people in person that you've been like getting to know over Zoom, and then you're having also like breakthroughs. Anything else from the event that like stuck out to you that maybe guys wouldn't even think of? Because like what is it, kumbaya? Like what the fuck do you do? Like you singing songs, crying to each other, yeah. What would you tell them?
It's it's a formation of bond
Mm,
between other guys in my situation and our situation. Um, it's a way to build the support system, because no matter what stage of life we're in, there's always going to be struggles, and we can't do it alone.
yeah, yeah. So as far as like the marriage situation, did you guys get divorced? Like, where's that at?
We've been divorced since December
Okay. So
of
you're
last
now
year.
moved on from that relationship. Um, do you feel like this journey has helped you heal from it?
It has, a lot, because I can look back and see how rough the marriage was. I'm able to take ownership of the areas where I fell short and wasn't a leader. And it was hard to accept at first, but I'm I'm to the point where, yeah, I can own my faults.
Yeah. What about like co-parenting? Like, how's that been? Especially again being in Thrive, and like how has that helped you?
Um, it's helped with communication. Um, Shortly after the divorce, it was more kind of like parallel parenting.
Mhm.
She kind of did her thing, I did my thing, just because communication was so toxic. And now it's kind of grown back together into the co-parenting uh, aspect of it. Uh, Communication's gotten a lot better, um, just simply because I've done the work.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You came to us in the midst of separation, divorce, or divorce, and then you got divorced, and now you're beyond divorce. I mean, like it's kind of the gamut, right? Of like what we do. Now that you are divorced and you're like pressing forward, I mean, it's now been a while, right? So you're 8 months into that, but you're still working with us. I think a lot of guys are confused. They think, oh, this is only to like save my marriage, but like you're beyond that. And I think that's actually the sweet spot for what we really do. What's it been like now having been divorced, but still doing this like communication work, leadership? Like, what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I come in, um, looking for a way to save my marriage.
Yeah.
Um, it was I was looking for a way to keep it together, keep the family whole, and now being on the other side, yeah, I can grieve and mourn the loss of that marriage, but I've grown to know that I'm okay with just me. Um, you know, I've tried going on a couple dates, and I'm able to see the red flags because I know what I deserve and know what I want for myself.
Yeah.
And continuing on with this journey is just helping build on the groundwork that we go through and thrive. And yeah, it's just a journey that I'm not looking on quitting.
Yeah.
Um, my ideal outcome is internal peace. I am, I share this a lot on the calls. I am very protective of my energy, and I don't allow myself to be in situations where my energy is not taken from me, but rather areas that I can give my energy.
I like that. So what, inner peace is like a huge ideal, obviously. And it's one of those things that as you keep going for it, more things come up and whatever. For you, like outside of that, what's next for you as you go through this journey of empowerment? Like maybe the next 6 months or so, like what type of goals do you have or things that are on the horizon for you?
Um, doing more things I enjoy that bring me happiness. Um, kind of setting work uh, on the back burner and taking more time for me.
Yeah.
That's helped me a lot through my journey, because I didn't know self-love, self-care was a thing for men. I thought
Yeah.
that was only something women did. And now that I have taken the time to do it for myself, this guy's not stopping.
Yeah. I mean, again, that seems like a huge shift. Culturally in America, men don't do that, and especially, this is an investment. This isn't like $10 a month. Like you're having to sacrifice probably some other things. I mean, that says to me a lot about you and how you value your own growth, right? So I guess like as we kind of wrap up, like there's guys that are listening that are on the fence and they're like, man, I'm like really more focused on saving my marriage, or I just don't know, this sounds good, but what if it's bullshit? Or like there's just different voices in their head that's trying to really stop them from their growth. Just a minute or two, just share what would you say to those guys in terms of, and not, I mean, yeah, empowered man, great, but like the journey and like leaning in, like ultimately they have to do the work. So what would you say to those guys who are just even on the fence about doing the work?
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of that way when I come in. Um, I was looking for something, but nothing ever worked. Why was this going to work? And leaning in and really diving in deep to answer the questions in these assignments, man, it broke me. It broke me down to nothing just because I thought I was perfect. And I rebuilt stronger and better internally than I've ever been in my life.
Mm,
So if the guys are looking for something to really transform them, I strongly suggest going through this program.
mm,
'Cause this is a real deal.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Like we've been doing with this series, the client journey series, is really to show just real men, just regular dudes. Like no one in our program is like super special unless you're Sam Davis. Because you're like 6'4" and 280 pounds of muscle. I love you, Sam. But really we're just average guys who are trying to live extraordinary lives, right? I mean, I think that's the thing. That's really what separates clients from non-clients, in my opinion, is we're all the same people. We just, some of us are motivated and driven by other things. And in this case, you guys, the 80 something we have in our program, are all focused on how do I become an empowered man, because I've been disempowered and I've been living like basically a little bitch for most of my life. It's time for me to fucking rise up. And so if you're that guy and you're listening and you're like, well, it's probably bullshit, he probably paid the guy to be on here. No, I didn't pay nobody to do shit. Like, I'm just trying to find like regular guys in our program. You're not flashy, you're not a marketer. I mean, this is, like you said, is kind of uncomfortable a little bit, and like you've even kind of been like tense with your words, and like you could tell you're like, I just, I'm not here to prove anything, right? You're just here to share. And if you're listening, if you're watching and you're like, this is what it looks like for a man to go from fucking being on antidepressant pills. That I love, man. I love that shit, that you like, we're able to get through a lot of this healing work. So now you're off of that. You've taken drinking and put it on a back burner, so it's got a healthy place in your life instead of an unhealthy place in your life. Those two alone would be worth millions in a sense, right? But like, not only that, now you've got a brotherhood of guys that you can cry with. I watched you, encouraging other dudes this weekend and hugging them and sharing love with them, but from a place of depth. This wasn't just some like woo-woo shit. This wasn't some like, oh, we all get in touch with our emotional feelings. This was just like real, authentic love for each other and love for the process of what we're going through. So if you're one of those guys and you're sitting there listening, you're like, I don't know. This is what it looks like. And if you can't get off the fence because of that, you're fucking lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself about what you really want. And you need to fucking stop coming on and telling people all this bullshit. Yeah, I want to change, but this is expensive, or this or that, this, that. It's all fucking excuses. At the end of the day, money ain't going to stop you from getting what you want. If you really want something, you go after it. It's not like we're selling $1 million service here, right? You'll find a way. You'll do Grubhub. You'll do whatever it takes to get to where you want to go. That's all I got to say about that, because I get tired of people making excuses about dumb shit, and it's just like, bro, find a fucking way, right? I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you sharing your journey and what you've been through, and that's all I got to say. You got any final words for these guys?
I encourage every man out there to look for a way to better themselves.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. We are out. Hey, thanks again for joining us on this episode of Empowered AF 2.0. If you're new here, thanks for checking out this episode. And I encourage you to take a visit back to the first episodes in this podcast. Look, we have over 50 episodes on the foundations of how to be an empowered man. I'm talking about in your relationship with your wife, your kids, your work, your boss, whoever and whomever. And I highly suggest you take some time to listen and gain some insight and knowledge from those episodes. And hey, if you want to connect with me deeper, be sure to check out the Empowered Man group. That's empoweredman.co/group. empoweredman.co/group for latest information and to join our group of other men who are wanting to be empowered just like you. Until then, this is Mark signing off, Empowered AF 2.0.